Hello and welcome to the second edition of Meet the Author. I'm with Ruth Hatfield here in the back room of the Earl of Beaconsfield, and Ruth is going to tell us about her writing career.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Ruth Hatfield and I'm from Cambridge. And my published writing career started with this book. This is the Book of Storms, and it's a children's book, and it's the first book of a trilogy. So the second two volumes have also been published now. The second volumes are The Colour of Darkness and The Book of Shadows, and this is the last one, which has just come out.
The Book of Storms, was it the first book you've ever written?
No, it wasn't. It's the first book I've had published, because I've been writing since I was a very small child, and I've written lots of stories, and I've written quite a few sort of longer length books, but it wasn't until I had the idea for this book, for the Book of Storms, and I thought it was an idea that was worth doing a lot of work on, and it took me quite a few years to get it to a state when I could find an agent and get it published. So before then I did try and write a Mills and Boon, which Mills and Boon sadly rejected. I tried to write various sort of full-length novels, and I wrote them, but they weren't very good. But then when I got the idea for this one, I thought, this is it. I'm really going to put the work in, and I did finally get it published in 2014.
Great, and is it enabling you to do your writing full time? Or?
It did. For the last, so when I sold it in 2000, I got an agent and she sold it for me to the UK and also to an American publisher. So the trilogy is out in the States as well, and both the deals did mean that for 2 or 3 years I could live and I could live on the earnings from my writing, and that was great. Now that's kind of come to an end, so I'm now in the position where I am trying to get another book ready for submission to publishers, and hopefully I'll be able to sell that and then again hopefully carry on. But with writing, it's very much once your contract ends, you're back to square one, and you've got to try and sell the next thing. So
really, what they estimate how much they think it might make, and then they give you an advance. You mean?
Yeah. So they estimated. So they estimate how much they think they can sell, and in the UK a lot of it was to do with foreign rights. So they've actually sold, there's a version of this that's come out in the Czech Republic, so they've translated it into Czech. They sold that to a Czech publisher. It's also been sold to Brazil, to Norway and to Poland. So the money that the publisher makes from selling those rights is part of the stuff that they judge when they pay me. But yeah, that's the way it's worked, and it's good because it means that I don't have to sell 30,000 copies before I can afford to buy myself a cup of tea. Because the royalties you get are quite small for books these days. So royalties on a book that sells for £5 are sort of, well, going to be 30-40 pence or something for the author. So it's not actually, you can't really make a lot of money per book. So.
Was it difficult finding an agent then?
It was, it was difficult finding an agent. I did it the very traditional way, which is that I did it through postal submissions. This was I started in 2008 trying to find an agent, and I finally got one in 2012. I didn't obviously spend 4 years post-bombing every agent I could find. I submitted to about 15 or 16 over that time, but I did a lot of work on the manuscript over that time because I got some feedback from some very nice, kind agents who thought that the work was good enough to merit work, but they didn't want to take it on because they didn't think it was in a finished enough state to be worth trying to submit to publishers. So they just gave me some nice feedback, and I kept working. And finally in 2012, when I'd pretty much given up, I rang up the last agent I submitted to because I hadn't heard from her, and she she read it and liked it, and then took me on. And she found me the 2 deals very quickly after that. But yes, it was 4 years of getting a bit of encouragement and then a lot of rejection.
So you'd just written 1 book, but the publisher said, well, we'll give you a 3-book deal, did they?
Yes. I'd written the Book of Storms, and I knew that it was the beginning of a trilogy. It very much ended. I tried to make it a complete book in itself, but when it ends, you know that there is more to come, although it should have a satisfying conclusion. But yes, I'd outlined the next 2, and I was very clear in my mind what was happening and where they were going. And actually, quite a few publishers, when my agent submitted, quite a few of them said, we'll buy the first book, but we don't want to buy 2 unwritten books. But then the publishers who actually did offer, in the end, who were Hotkey Books, they're part of a much bigger publishing firm called Bonnier. And in the States, the company is called Henry Holt, and they're part of Macmillan, obviously a big publisher. And they both said, yes, we'll buy this without the second 2 books haven't been written yet, which was very nice of them. So I've been writing the last 2 since then, and as I said, the last one was finished at the beginning of last year, and then at the beginning of this year, and then it came out in November.
Does it get easier then?
No.
The whole writing process?
No, absolutely not. This one, the second book, The Colour of Darkness, was, I thought it was your classic difficult second album territory, because it was really, really hard. And then I didn't have very long left before my deadline, and I got pregnant, and then tried to finish this one before the baby was born, and then didn't manage to. And she was born, and then I just had to keep going. And no, this was excruciatingly hard. But actually, I really, at the end of it, I thought, oh, that's terrible, because I had it was so hard to write. And then when I come back to it now, after a few months, I think actually that I write completely differently to how I did when I did the first book, The Book of Storms. But I actually am more happy with this book. I'm not happy. It's a very, very dark book, but I actually kind of think it's much better than I thought it was, which sounds quite egotistical, but I think you have to assess it in some way. Given how hard it was to write, and I thought, oh, this is so hard. It must be really bad. But then actually, when I read it now, I think some of the work did pay off. But no, it definitely got harder. And I think part of that was to do with the fact that it's a trilogy and they're also interlinked. And then when you get to the end, you have to put all of those ideas that you had into the book, but it still has to be an entertaining, fun, adventurous book.
Tricky.
Yeah.
Do you have lots of ideas, sketches, so to speak, of different books that you possibly might write one day, or do they just come to you on the bus, or?
No, they come to me on the bus, I think, yeah, that's more of it. They come to me, ideas come to me from very, very small things that I see, very small, lines that I hear people say. I was in the book that I want to work on, so there's one that I'm working on at the moment trying to get finished, but the next one that I want to write is completely different. And I was up in Beamish Museum in County Durham in the summer, and it's this museum of outdoor life, and they've got a sort of mining village from the 1900s, and then they've got a town street from the 1900s and an old farmstead from the 1820s. And we went 3 times, me and my family, because we went once and it was good, and so we just wanted to go back and back. And the third time we went, it was a really rainy morning, and we were at the 1820s farm, and there was nobody there, and there was just, you looked out across the sort of, it's in a bowl, so you can't see modern life around it in the sort of valley, and I looked out from the 1820s farm, and there's just like a single feeling of peace about the place, and from that single feeling, I know the heart of my next book, which is kind of strange, and I couldn't explain it in words yet because I haven't tried, but it's just these tiny feelings that you get, which are reactions to things, and you think, I really want to put that, I want to capture it. And
so it's not necessarily, you don't think of a plot then, it's you build it around a feeling or something.
Yeah, very much so.
Do you want to tell us a bit about the sort of story, the first one, or tell us whatever you can about, without giving too much away, of the trilogy?
So in the Book of Storms, what I wanted to do was to have a boy who was basically quite scared of everything, and I wanted to put him in a situation where he had to find courage, but I also wanted I wanted to challenge him. I wanted to bring him out of himself. It's a sort of classic coming of age type thing. But the difference is that I've got this character who is Samael in the Book of Storms, and he is in the Book of Storms. He's very, very awful, and he's very nasty. But over the trilogy, it sort of gradually emerges that he's very much a character of shades of grey, I suppose. And he has an important place in the world, and he basically controls, without giving too much away, he controls the world's imagination, but he doesn't do it with any kind of sense of morality. So he's kind of chaos. And I wanted to pit this boy against this massive force of chaos, and see how the boy could grow and change and what he could become. And I think Danny, my hero, and in the second and third books he's joined by a girl called Kath, who is my almost anti-hero, but she's not, she is a hero too. And I wanted to see how the heroes could face this massive force of chaos and keep their humanity all the way through, and learn from the chaos, learn how to imagine, but keep being kind and strong. And so that's what happens. And in the Book of Storms, there's obviously a lot of stuff about the rest of the world being alive. So part of the story, he finds a stick very early on, and he starts to be able to hear voices of everything that's alive. And this is a hugely important part of his quest and how he journeys through the landscape and how he learns to overcome the forces that he's up against. So that's the idea behind them. And other than that, which it sounds quite serious, but other than that, I try my very best to make them fun and entertaining and exciting, so that people would enjoy them, not just feel like they were being preached at or lectured to or anything like that.
And why do you write for children?
I don't really. It just happened that I wanted to, because I thought that there was an area of children's books that which these days is much more explored, but which isn't that traditional. You know, looking at the devil, and also looking at sort of as a more nuanced villains, more nuanced heroes, or more nuanced villains. And I wanted to do that in children's in a book for children, because I thought that that's a thing that children are very good at learning to understand, but quite often they're told very black and white things from stories. Other than that, I would say, I know quite a lot of people my own age adults who've read these books and really enjoyed them. So I don't think they are necessarily just for children.
And where can we get the books?
You can buy them off the publisher's website, Hotkey Books, or you can buy them off Amazon. They're all on Amazon. You can get them at Romsey Town. They stock all of them. I think Waterstone stocked the first one, and a lot of independent bookshops stock them all. Like in Ely Toppings book, those Toppings books stock them as well. And they're in the libraries, of course, as well. They're in the central library, so it should be there. The house is falling in. The house is falling, and Danny is falling. Knees and elbows crumpling onto the floor, and an ear-splitting crash is tearing through the air. That's surely the roof breaking in two, about to come pelting down on top of him. His bedroom is flashing with the screams of rain and thunderbolts poured out by a storm in full raging flow. Outside, the wind is flinging itself against buildings, howling into chimney pots, twisting trees round benches and leaping in spiteful glee as bicycles crash into cars and tiles fly through windows. The sky is singing with thunder, and an iron avalanche of hail is pounding onto the glistening roads. Danny listens for a moment. As his bedroom curtains blaze with lightning, he curls his fingers tightly round the duvet, wanting to pull it over his head and hide in the soft darkness. But even that won't save him when the house breaks apart. He'll be crushed inside it. Trapped under fallen roof beams, he'll struggle for air. Once the last breath has been squeezed out of him, he'll die. He shivers, watching flash after flash through the crack in the curtains. More than anything, he wants to creep into his parents' bedroom, even though he knows he's too old now for that sort of nonsense. And anyway, his parents aren't there. Always, at the first sign of a storm, they run outside, pile into the car and drive away to the nearest high point. They go to watch how storms behave, they say. And he has to stay in his bed. But they've told him what to do. Don't go to the window. Don't look outside. Hide under the duvet, cover your face, and everything will be fine. It's only a storm, only rain and wind, thunder and lightning. Close your eyes and go back to sleep. Just tell yourself it's only a storm. The skin of his scalp prickles as if a horde of ants is burrowing into his hair. He clambers back up into bed and tries to force himself to sleep. The night around him begins to burn with lightning. He closes his eyes and buries his face in the crook of his arm. Everything will be all right in the morning. Everything is always all right in the morning. His parents come back and he eats breakfast with them and laughs about how silly it is to be so scared by a thunderstorm. However long the night and thick the darkness, however loud the roaring storm, the morning always comes. Yeah, I live in Ross Street, so my Mill Road connection is that I've lived in Cambridge. I was born just outside Cambridge and lived here, grew up here, and I moved back to Cambridge in 2004, I think, and I've lived in Mill Road ever since 2006. I lived in Hemmingford Road, and then now I live in Ross Street, so that's 10 years. Seems crazy, but.
Has it shaped your writing at all, living in this area?
Yeah, I mean, it has. Living in Cambridge definitely has, because of all of the huge opportunities that you have to see different things, do different things, and talk to different people. And I think particularly living around here, like I said earlier on, I get ideas for things just from tiny sort of throwaway comments and things I see and hear. And when you live somewhere where there's so much going on and there's so much diversity, there's so many interesting people doing interesting things, you're never short of inspiration for writing. I'm never short of inspiration for writing, and I'm never short of the desire to get up and get out there and see things, because it's such an exciting place to live. And I do think the huge cultural life of Cambridge is and of this area now is massively important to me. It does have a great effect. So.
Well, good. Thanks very much, Ruth, and good luck with your future books.
Thanks very much. Oh, it's nice to talk to you. Thank you.